Welcome back to the channel, guys. So today we're going to talk about the Super Meteor 350. Got that wrong already. Super Meteor 650. And compare it a little bit to the Meteor 350, which I previously owned. Now, should you go ahead and upgrade, it's a bit of a controversial term, upgrade your Meteor 350 for the new Super Meteor 650, which is scheduled to be launched by Royal Enfield in spring 23. And that would be an absolute perfect time for a new bike in the British riding season, wouldn't it? So Royal Enfield have been on a massive rampage recently. They've brought out the Meteor, the Classic, the Hunter, all based on the J Series 350cc or 349cc platform. It's an amazing bike. People are just buying these bikes in droves. The Meteor was the top selling bike in the cruiser category for, I think, 18 months. I've been checking the Motorcycle Industry Association press statistics on sales, and Meteor is just dominating. In modern retro, it's a tie between, or a back and forth between, the Interceptor and the Classic 350. So Royal Enfield is absolutely owning it, and they've brought out the Meteor 650 or Super Meteor 650, and every time you add super to something, it just becomes better, doesn't it? Like Super Soaker, Super Nintendo. There was a graphics card called the 2080 Super, which was better than the previous version. So the question is the Super Meteor 650 better than the Meteor 350? Now, it'll be a bit of a horses for courses. People are going to love the Meteor 350 because it's really affordable. It's about £4,000. It used to be just over £4,000 for the Supernova variant, which was the top spec of that particular bike's lineup. But the Meteor is obviously a little bit down on power. It's got good range because it sips fuel, but it's basically down on power and struggles to receive 70 miles an hour. And people argue all day long. There's people that have been touring on their Meteor 350s. I just don't think it's ideal for that application because you haven't really got good wind protection. You haven't really got that good options for luggage. It's all aftermarket. The Royal Enfield luggage options are kind of bunk, really, just plastic tubs, which aren't very good. It's not amazingly comfortable for huge distances in the seat, but then neither is the Interceptor. The Interceptor you can only ride on for about 2 hours before your bum starts to hit. So does the Super Meteor 650 kind of address these problems? Well, it's going to address the power issue because the Super Meteor 650 is basically a Meteor. I'm going to say it's a Meteor because all of the design elements, I'm just looking across to a picture of it. If you look at the fender, at the rear, the light is almost the same, the rear light. In fact, the tail tidy is neater, which is an improvement. The forks are the same. You've got the headlights are kind of a little bit different, but the dials are the same. The paneling is the same. The seat structure is the same, like a 2-seat option or a touring seat. Brakes are the same. It's basically the same motorcycle stylistically. Very, very similar stylistically, actually. Just everything's a little bit bigger, a little bit chunkier. So you've got 43mm upside down forks on the Super Meteor. The tank is 15.7 litres, so they've upped it a little bit. The switch gear, they've gone from like kind of plasticky, but really high quality plastic, to an dull aluminium, so matte aluminium finish. So they've improved that. The basically the bike is what it says. It's a Super Meteor. So yeah, I mean it's obviously powered by the Interceptor 650's engine, which is the 648cc parallel twin, and that puts out about 47 brake horsepower. So it's still A2 friendly. 52 newton meters, which is a little bit below the BSA Gold Star of its big single. That's 55 newton meters, but it's way above the 27 newton meters of the standard Meteor, the Meteor 350. So if you were to take the two bikes in a sort of head-to-head, let's compare power to weight. So the Meteor is at 191 kilograms. They specify this in running order. The Super Meteor is coming in at 241, and that's the thing which is putting people off, and that's 90% full of fuel and oil. That's how they've described it. But you've got almost double the torque. So though you've got 20% extra mass, you've got double the torque. And they've also refined the engine a little bit so that you're going to have more torque available lower down in the rev range. So it might suit the riding style of a cruiser. So the other thing that's changed is the wheelbase. I think it's gone from 1400 to 1500 millimeters, so that's axle to axle. Everything else proportionally looks the same. Just looking across to look at the picture. Obviously, you've got 6-speed on the 650 and 5-speed on the 350. That might make a difference if you're going long distances. So other little stylistic things that actually differ this 650 unit is they've got a very much more modern engine case logo. They've used the brand new contemporary logo of Royal Enfield, whereas on the Interceptor it's got stenciled into the metal Royal Enfield in the old font, so it looks very classic. You've got black instrument clusters as well, as opposed to the chrome ringed articles on the Interceptor and the Continental, so that's quite different as well. One thing about this bike is it's oil and air cooled, so you don't have any horrible radiators, which you should take note, BSA, because that radiator is an abomination, and Royal Enfield have really neatly slotted the oil cooler in between the duplex downpipes of the steel cradle frame, so it looks really neat. What else about it? Well, obviously with the Meteor, you had, I think originally on launch, 7 colour options, or was it, no, 8? No, 7. 7 was right. It's 2 for the Fireball version, so it's obviously Meteor is a space phenomenon, and you've got this kind of nomenclature that all relates to space and astronomy, which makes it even cooler, actually, in my estimation. So, yeah, you had Fireball in red and yellow. Then you had Stellar. They just call it Stellar, which was black, red, and blue. And then you had Supernova, which was the top spec, and then that was blue and brown, or copper beech bronze. With the Super Meteor, you've got similar. You've got 7 to launch. This time, the base spec models is just called Standard, and the higher tier is called Touring. And Touring comes with some additional things, like a special seat, touring handlebars, and nicer deluxe foot pegs, and a touring screen. It's like what you get in the wind buffeting. So that's a bit of an improvement. Now, let's go back to the colours. So in the standard variant, you've got Astral, which is cool, and Astral, it's just, they're using the same sort of celestial terminology. I really like it. So Astral Blue, Astral Black, Astral Green. And then you've got Interstellar. So the middle tier is called Interstellar Green, Interstellar Grey. Quite cool. You've got 2 greens as well. I love a green bike, but I've got 2 options for green, so I can't wait to see these in the metal. And then the top tier, which is confined to touring. So if you want this colour scheme, it's going to come configured as a touring variant. Then you're on Celestial. So this is what the top one's called. Celestial Red and Celestial Blue. And as with the Meteor 350, the top tier was 2-tone. So in the Meteor 350, you had a blue top of the tank, black underneath, or copper beech bronze top of the tank, and black underneath, with a pinstripe to separate the 2 colours. And in this one, you've got a red base and then a sort of cream component on the top of the tank. So it's even more detailed. There's pinstripes everywhere. It just looks great. Now, let's think really. Should you upgrade your Meteor 350 for the Super Meteor 650? And my answer to this would be yes. Now, I know that's would be unpopular with a lot of people, and there's a lot of really defensive Meteor 350 owners out there, and that's fine. They love the bikes. They go for a lovely little countryside bimble. Bike works for them. But for longer distance and carrying luggage or pillions, it's not really a question, is it? The Super Meteor 650 is going to be a better bike, but it's just not going to be as easy as if you had a bike with hard case luggage that was configured to fit the bike. You could get that as standard. It looks good. You've got more comfortable riding position because you've got touring screen, you've got touring handlebars and touring seat. I know some of those are available on the standard Meteor, but the handlebars aren't. And then you've got more power. So the power is going to enable you to get up to the sort of 80, 90 miles an hour cruising speed, which if you go into Europe is going to be really useful. So the Super Meteor, for people who want to do higher speeds, carrying higher loads, going longer distances, got a bigger fuel tank as well, is going to be better. And that's not really an opinion as such as looking at the facts and making a sort of factual conclusion based on the available evidence. The Super Meteor will be better. Now, in terms of value, that brings in the price. The standard Meteor's £4 grand, a little bit less. You can buy a good used one for 3 if you're quite quick. If you go on the Facebook group and when people are selling them, you can get one for £3 grand with under 1,000 miles on it. So it's hugely good value. With the Super Meteor, I suspect it's going to be more expensive than the Interceptor, and there's a few reasons for that. It's a little bit more premium. They've got LED headlights which is the first time Royal Enfield have ever fitted that. The Tripper, for example, is standard on the Super Meteor. So these things are going to make it a little bit more. They're going to bump the price up a little bit more. I think it'll be. I'm hoping it'll be under £7 grand for the base model. Remember, the Interceptor is 6,039, and then it goes up from there. So if you want nicer colours, it's like 6.3, 6.5, 6.5. The Meteor 650, I think, will hopefully be under 7. I don't really want it to be above 7.5 grand. But then, if you're not looking totally within Royal Enfield, well, what else is out there? There's the Kawasaki Vulcan 650, which is a low-slung cruiser. It doesn't really grab you emotionally the way Royal Enfields do, and it's probably more expensive based on the parallel twin 650 platform. It will have more power though. It'll be looking about 70, a high 60s brake horsepower, and there's much more configuration for seat height, so shorter riders get on really well with that bike. There's the Honda, is it the CB500 Rebel? I might got that wrong, but basically a 500cc cruiser. There's that option, and then further up the spectrum, you've got the Triumph Speedmaster, but that's way more expensive, probably double by the time you spec'd it. So there's not really any competition for something with the fit and finish that Royal Enfield now has. If you're happy with 47 brake horsepower, maybe that's not enough for you. But if you are happy with that, it's an incredible proposition. So yeah, I mean, just to finish, what am I going to do? Well, I've missed my Meteor ever since I got rid of it. I would love to have a Meteor again, but with Interceptor power. And I looked at the Interceptor, I looked at the BSA Gold Star, but I think if I could get on board with the fully forward foot controls of the Meteor 650, we might be onto a winner. When could I actually get the bike though? Well, perhaps not to spring 23, and even then there's going to be a shortage because the motorcycle supply shortage is going to be going on into 23. Luckily Royal Enfield doesn't have all of these electronic gizmos and gadgets and so on. Luckily it's quite a back to basics machine, so hopefully they're not as affected by semiconductor shortage. But I would like to get the bike in time for the British spring and summer. So I'm going to go and have a look at one in the metal, and then I'll probably do a little video on that just to do a walk around of the bike. But it looks good, to be honest. I can't see any real downsides to it. Yeah, people say it's 241 kg, but the weight is so low down. I mean, the seat height is another 2.5 centimeters lower than the Meteor. So it's like you're going to be, well, I can flat foot most bikes, but I'm going to be able to flat foot this easily with a bend in the leg. It's the weight's going to be low. It's low slung. It's going to be awesome, isn't it? And it's going to be simple. There's no technology. It's going to be cheap to maintain. There's going to be a well established dealer network. It's a powerful proposition, isn't it? And this time, what I probably would do is just say, look, whenever a color comes in, I'll put my name on a list. Whenever the color comes in, just let me know, and I'll come and look at it, and I'll probably just go for it. I wasted time last time round waiting for the brown or Copper Beach Bronze Meteor 350, and it was a silly move really, because I was waiting for the top spec version. I should have just got the next bike that came into the showroom, then I could have been riding it all summer, which would have been way better. Something else to remember: if you are going to spec one of these bikes, you don't necessarily need to go for the touring straight away. Just because you want to go tour, you don't have to wait for the touring, because you can add LED indicators, bar and mirrors, the deluxe foot pegs, the touring seat, the handlebars, the windscreen, the panniers. All of that is optional extras. So you can configure a bike of any colour to be a touring spec model. And that was a little mistake I made previously as well. I waited for the touring screen and the bits and bobs that I didn't really need. So yeah, for me, I'm not really that worried about the weight. I probably have to sit on it and move it around a little bit, but it's going to feel quite planted when it's going, isn't it? So it'll be a nice thing to ride. I just can't see a downside to it. It's affordable. It's got the 650 platform. It's got the Meteor's looks, an array of color options, great extras that are available for it already. Yeah, it's a bit of a no-brainer, to be honest, isn't it? And good for Royal Enfield, just bringing out good bike after good bike. Alright guys, well that is it for me on this video. A little update on the SuperMeteor 650. Hope you found it interesting. I certainly am looking forward to having one of these bikes. I mean, sorry, that was a bit of a Freudian slip. I'm looking forward to testing one of these bikes and seeing it in the metal and then see where we go from there. But good for you, Royal Enfield. Top work. Alright guys, well I'll see you in the next one.